Hey, I know that was a cheesy little video, but actually it had a lot of good information in it. So as we go through these, you will be learning about the men. Again, at this time, they did not know that animals and plants were made of cells. So we're going to talk through the cell theory and how they discovered it. So all living things are made up of one or more cells. This is the very first part of the cell theory. The cell theory is actually three parts. The first, all living things are made up of one or more cells. Cells are actually too small to be seen with the naked eye, so they had to have the aid of a microscope. Now, if you think back, guys, there was very little known about any of this, and there wasn't any electricity, so their microscopes didn't plug in. But they knew that the cells were too small and that they needed something to help magnify the image. Zacharias Janssen, he was the first one to discover a microscope, and it was early microscope because he was around in the late 1500s, and he is the one that is attributed with inventing the compound microscope. Now, the compound microscope is a microscope in which there are actually two images, and not two images, I'm sorry, two lenses, and it magnifies the image as well as it makes it come in to a very, brings it in real fine, so it brings it in pretty sharp. So you have to have that magnification as well as resolution, and the resolution part is making it sharp. So it really wouldn't do any good to make an image larger if the image was not clear. So the compound microscope has two or more lenses. This is a picture of a compound microscope, and the total magnification with the microscope is a lot more powerful than with a single lens. But of course, Janssen was a lens maker, and as you could see from that little video at first, that his lenses were very rudimentary. They were very primitive, and he didn't have a light source, so they had to sit near the window at nighttime if they wanted to see the cells. They had to do it by candlelight. I'm surprised they didn't go blind, but at the same time, there was very little known. Also, think about this: there were no dyes. You know, they couldn't dye. Today, we can dye the cells, and that makes some of the components, some of the organelles really stand out. But at the time, they really didn't have any dyes, and so that really was not an option for them. In 1665, Robert Hooke studied using this early microscope, and he was a botanist. So botanists are the ones that study plants. And when he was looking under the microscope, he noticed that all the plants were made up of cells. So he was the very first one to be looking at living tissue underneath the microscope, and actually he was the first one to come up with the term the cell.